Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of Scott Soldiers. Last weekend was the Ontario Model Soldier Society's annual show on parade. This year's show was at a new venue, and I think this was an added benefit, with more floor space, improved lighting, lots of free parking, and a good ambiance. If you couldn't make it to this year's show, I hope this video will give you a better appreciation of what was happening. And if you want to learn more, go to the Society's YouTube channel, and I'll leave a link to that in the description paragraph. The show took place at the Franklin Horner Community Centre in Etobicoke in the Toronto area. This venue is close to the Legion Hall, where the OMSS holds its monthly meetings and past shows. Here is what it looked like the night before, as the vendors were setting up their tables and exhibitors were arranging their items before the competitions. As you can see, the space is significantly larger than at last year's location. Everything is on one level at the community center, with an operating cafeteria, public restrooms, and great lighting. The organizers kept the vendors central and together in one large gym, and the exhibitions and dioramas, wargaming, and the OMSS table in another. William Britton's presented in a third room, which enabled a full audio-video presentation, which I'll talk about later on. There was a good selection of Del Prado figures, Atlantic, and other plastic figures, Britton's, both civilian and military, as well as older and newer sets. Even the Plastic General was there. I'll leave a link to his channel. I believe that there was something for everybody that showed up, so again, whether you like to paint something yourself, wanted a gloss ceremonial, castings, matte individual figures, related vehicles, plastics, or 1/6 are your passion, you could find it there. Think plastic armored vehicle kits, King and Country, CB Miniatures, Toy Army Workshop, Corgi, Blackhawk, Tradition, John Jenkins Design, and Italeri sets, and so forth. In the Britton's room, there was a very good presentation of the company's newest lineup of figures and vehicles. I had already seen the Sherman tank in London, but here was the U.S. Army half-track, a very nice version and a good addition to any U.S. Army set of figures or diorama. I mentioned at the beginning that Ken and Erica Osen attended. They were meeting and talking with the attendees and responding to questions about the Britton's Club, the figures on display, and the hobby in general. Ken delivered 2 presentations throughout the day, and I sat in on the morning session. He's a natural speaker, and his passion for history, design, collecting, and the hobby comes through. He and Erica are assets to the company, and On Parade was fortunate to have them attend and meet everyone. I'd be remiss if I didn't share with you some of the exhibitions and dioramas which were there for showing and for judging. I'll let your eyes wander over some of these exhibits and keep my talking to a minimum. This 1/6 display was judged to be Best of Show and is a tribute to war movies. This work is largely hand-done or leverages the capabilities of a 3D printer. Either way, it was very impressive. I'll leave a link to this artist if you are interested in his other 1/6 works. I like this tribute to the Royal Marines in the Falklands War. I took 2 pictures to give you some idea of how perspective was used to give this more depth. This exhibit of Japanese samurai figures is the most I've ever seen of this type or theme. The variety reminds me one of medieval knights with the colors, poses, and weapons of that period. There were interesting dioramas to be seen. This one of an RAF field in operation. Another of a roadway in Europe clogged with refugees intermixed with U.S. Army troops. And here is a World War I battle with a British mother tank crossing over the trenches. Here are some other displays for your viewing pleasure. A variety of village idiots. I mean, what's a village without an idiot? The 17th Lancers passing in review. The Lord Mayor's coach out on a road trip. A Royal Naval display. Some flats of jousting knights. Actually, I think other than some plastics, those are the only flats that I recall seeing. A collection of French military porcelains. Assorted figures and more. As I said, there was a lot to look and admire at. The imagination, paintwork, or assembly, all was a great deal of effort to tell a story or present a moment in time. So what did I buy? Well, let's start with this figure from William Britton's. It's the French Fusilier from the Régiment de Berry, number 16201. I have an image of this soldier, and as you can see, the figure is a good likeness. I like the fact that he is smoking a clay pipe and in a relaxed manner, perhaps wondering why no French supply ships have appeared at Quebec, and when his tobacco will run out that summer of 1758. Perhaps he doesn't know yet that the British are about to capture the French fortress at Louisbourg and thus command all waters of New France. This set is Rêve by Martin Tabany, who is a well-known maker. This set is identified as the Royal Grenadier Guards of Canada, and judging from the uniforms, late 19th century. My only criticism is that the distinctive helmet badge does not appear on the bearskin cap. Meanwhile, the patrol jacket on the officer is well done, and is so 1880s. This is another set of Wolf toy soldiers, this time of the Governor General's Foot Guards. Now this is a more modern version of the guards with the automatic rifles. As many of you know, I have a growing mass of foot guards, which is a local Ottawa regiment and appeared in episode 51. These figures are referred to as London Toy. They have no discernible markings, but in Richard O'Brien's book, these are identified as having been made immediately after World War II in London, Ontario. They are certainly similar to what is generically referred to as dime store figures, which I showed in episode 26. Based on the O'Brien book, I have an airman in blue, number LT3, an army officer, number LT1, an airman in brown, number LT2, and a Navy officer in blue, number LT6. The bases of the three of them have cracked in almost the exact same manner, suggesting any production similarities. Here is a set of Nostalgia Models Governor General's Bodyguard, also known today as the Governor General's Horse Guards. Along those lines, I picked up this mounted horse guard, likely a modification of the Britton's figure, but now he has a French horn. So begins the search for more of this mounted orchestra to add to my collection of Governor General's horse guards. I picked up this CB miniature Staff Sergeant Northwest Mounted Police 1886. The pith helmet was common amongst British and Empire troops in that time frame, and in the hot and dry prairie would have been a feature of the mounted police as well. Speaking of which, here is a more contemporary RCMP officer mounted with a guidon. There is no manufacturer's marking, so I'm at a loss to identify the maker. Another two figures I bought. One is a Fort Henry Guardsman carrying the Union Jack. If you examine these closely, the sculpting and painting styles are similar. The RCMP figure carries a guidon and is marked by the name Ken Lewis on the bottom. Now, with a little research, I think I figured out that Ken was likely a long-time Ontario Model Soldier Society member who cast figures. Lastly is this lone CB figure, which could be a British Boer War figure, and from there you can make a leap and call it a Royal Canadian Regiment figure. After all, the RCR did fight in the Second Boer War. Well, that's all for today. There are more shows over the next 6 months, so whether you collect metal, plastics, composite, or resin, check them out. And if you're interested in the hobby, shows are a great way to get more information and meet other collectors. Don't forget to hit the like or subscribe buttons on your way out, and feel free to leave a comment if you attended the show and let others know what your experience was. So until next time, keep collecting.